Welcome back to Have More Babies. We are the show that takes a complex stack of sources, all the articles, the research, the data, and really just boils it down to the essential knowledge you need. Today, we're diving into a crisis that is, it's immediate, it's incredibly emotionally draining, and it's significant on a global scale. We're talking about the infant formula shortage. For millions of families who rely on this stuff, this is not abstract economic news. It is a daily, very real source of anxiety and, frankly, fear. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack the source material, and we're specifically leaning on some critical insights from Omega Pediatrics. We want to understand not just, what went wrong, but more importantly, what safe, immediate steps parents can take right now. And then what are the long-term systemic fixes we need so this never happens again? Okay, let's get into it.
And we really can't overstate the urgency here. I mean, when we talk about infant nutrition, we're talking about the complete dependency of a developing child on a single product. For infants who haven't fully moved to solid foods, formula is their primary lifeline. It's non-negotiable. So any disruption to its availability or its quality, that translates directly into a very serious threat to child welfare.
Okay, so let's trace this back. Where did this all begin? If we're looking at the anatomy of the shortage, it has to start with the pandemic.
It absolutely has to start there.
Yeah.
The COVID-19 pandemic was the obvious catalyst. The source material makes it clear that the pandemic didn't just create friction. It caused major systemic breaks across the global supply chain.
And the formula industry was especially vulnerable to that.
Uniquely vulnerable because its production is so reliant on complex global logistics. You're shipping raw materials from one continent and then packaging them in another.
That makes perfect sense on the supply side. But it's never just one thing, is it? What's really interesting, I think often overlooked, is how the pandemic also acted as this massive demand multiplier.
Exactly. You had fewer products physically moving through ports, through trucking routes, and at the same time, you had this huge shift in how people were buying things.
Right, everyone was staying home, ordering online.
Drastically increasing online ordering. And a lot of people fearing future shortages, that classic panic buying phenomenon, they were stockpiling whatever they could find.
So you get this perfect storm.
The perfect storm. You have a constrained, really fragile supply meeting this artificially surged demand. That gap is what created the initial shortages in so many regions.
And we should probably clarify the scope here. This wasn't just like a regional problem or one popular brand running out.
That's a critical point. This became a global issue, and it affected nearly all varieties. We're talking powdered formulas, the ready-to-feed kinds, which are essential for hospitals, and maybe most critically, the specialized formulas.
Ah, the ones for babies with allergies or specific medical needs.
Exactly. The ones for infants with allergies, metabolic disorders, severe sensitivities. When those run out, there are literally no safe substitutes on the shelf.
And that's where this gets really terrifying for a parent. The situation really just exposes this fundamental weakness in how we manufacture essential goods.
It does. I mean, we're talking about highly complex, chemically precise food products, but the system that runs them operates on this razor-thin margin. It's often called just-in-time inventory.
And just in time means no buffer.
No buffer at all. You don't keep huge warehouses full of materials. You trust the global supply system to deliver exactly what you need right when you need it.
So when that system breaks down, when ships are stuck offshore or a key factory shuts down,
The shelf goes bare almost instantly. The structure that was designed for maximum efficiency proved incredibly brittle when it was faced with instability.
that fragility is just a terrifying thought, especially when the product is something as basic as infant nutrition.
And the direct impacts on families have been, emotionally devastating and financially punishing. Parents spending hours driving long distances just trying to track down formula.
Only to find empty shelves.
Yeah.
Or, those little signs saying limit 2 per customer.
And the economic impact is real too. As scarcity drives the market, families are dealing with rapidly rising prices. It's not just a food crisis, it becomes a financial crisis, forcing some parents to make impossible choices.
And this is where the desperation leads to some really dangerous situations.
Mm-hmm.
The source material goes into detail about how parents, when the safe regulated stuff is gone, they turn to unauthorized channels.
They do. They might buy from black markets or unverified online resellers or maybe some unregulated local groups on social media.
Which carries this huge risk of counterfeit or expired products. And if you're a desperate parent, you might ignore some weird packaging, and you could unknowingly give your baby something that's nutritionally useless, or worse.
Or actively harmful. And that desperation leads to the alternatives that we have to warn against in the strongest possible terms. We have to strongly emphasize the warnings against trying to make homemade formula.
Or just using regular cow's milk as a substitute.
Absolutely. So why is a homemade solution so dangerous? Even if a recipe you find online seems nutritionally sound to someone who's not a chemist.
Right. What's the specific danger?
It's because formula is an exact science. Homemade versions are unsafe because they lack the precise balance of micro and macronutrients that a baby needs for healthy growth. They might have too much salt, or too little iron, or just the wrong ratio of protein and carbs. This puts infants at risk for severe health problems.
What kind of problems? Like, what are the clinical risks we're talking about?
The main risks are severe malnutrition, which can lead to what's called failure to thrive, and electrolyte imbalances. And those imbalances can happen really quickly in a young infant.
And it can be life-threatening.
They can cause seizures, kidney damage, cardiac issues. Medical professionals are unanimous on this. It is only a last resort, and if a family feels they absolutely have to consider it, it must be done under the immediate, strict supervision of a qualified health expert. That medical oversight is completely non-negotiable.
The source also touched on donor milk as an alternative. So this is milk from other lactating mothers? It sounds safer than a homemade recipe, but it has its own set of complexities, doesn't it?
It does. Donor milk requires really rigorous safety screenings and pasteurization to make sure it's free from infectious diseases or contaminants.
So you can't just get it from a neighbor.
Well, you shouldn't. While human milk banks do exist, the process can be slow, it can be costly, and milk from, let's say, less regulated channels often raises serious doubts about its quality and safety. The source and the handling are just unverified.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk directly to the parents who are facing this right now.
Yeah.
For anyone dealing with empty shelves today, what are the actionable steps? We need to go a bit deeper than just check more stores.
Absolutely. So, first, on inventory. Check your local stores regularly. Stock arrives, but it can vanish in hours. And don't just rely on the huge supermarket.
Right. Check the smaller places.
Check local pharmacies, convenience stores, specialty baby retailers. They often get smaller, less publicized shipments.
And you have to leverage technology. A lot of parents are finding success online, but you have to be strategic about it.
For sure. Beyond the big online markets, look into subscription services directly from the manufacturers. They might have a waiting list, but if you can get a subscription, it can guarantee a constant supply down the road.
Just be careful. Make sure you verify the retailer is legitimate before you put in any payment information.
And knowledge is power here. Stay informed, check credible local news outlets, maybe some well-moderated social media groups, but with caution. And it's always smart to ask your local retailers about their delivery schedules.
Yeah, and find out about their quantity limits. Those limits are there for a reason, right? To make sure more families get something.
Exactly. It's to prevent hoarding. Now, let's talk about the anxiety around switching brands. That's a huge one. If your usual formula isn't available, the source is clear that considering another brand is generally safe, but
There's always a but.
there is. This brings us back to the non-negotiable step. You have to talk to your pediatrician.
Before you do anything.
Before you introduce any new formula, even if it's another major brand, you must consult your pediatrician first. This is especially vital if your baby has any health conditions, allergies, or dietary restrictions.
Because even a simple brand change could trigger a reaction if the protein base is different or something.
Exactly. And your pediatrician is your #1 resource. If you truly cannot find any formula, your doctor is the one who can authorize special releases, offer guidance on safe, short-term preparation changes, or maybe even provide emergency supplies.
So the first call before you try anything risky is to your doctor.
Always. They are there for you in a crisis like this.
Okay, let's shift gears now from the immediate crisis to the systemic cure. This shortage exposed a really weak supply chain. It just begs a question. Why is the global supply for something so vital so easily broken?
Well, the fragility really starts with the ingredients. The analysis points out that formula production relies heavily on these essential raw materials, things like specific types of lactose and whey protein concentrate. And here's the core of the problem.
What's that?
Only a very small number of major suppliers in the entire world actually manufacture these key components.
So if the one factory in, I don't know, Belgium that makes a specific protein goes offline, the whole global supply chain just slows to a crawl.
That's pretty much it. It's a combination of economics and regulation. Manufacturing these ingredients requires massive capital investment in highly specialized, certified facilities, and formula manufacturing is one of the most highly regulated food industries on the planet.
So the barrier to entry is just incredibly high.
It's huge. The testing, the certifications, the standards. It's all so high that it naturally concentrates production among a few giants who can afford the compliance costs. And that reliance on a narrow base of suppliers becomes a massive systemic risk.
So what are the solutions then? How do we fight this concentration and bolster production? Let's start with what the industry itself can do.
The industry really needs to shift its mindset from that just-in-time efficiency to long-term resilience. That means prioritizing long-term planning, substantially improving supply capabilities, and critically boosting domestic production capacity.
So making more of it at home.
Exactly. Decreasing reliance on imports, or at least creating robust alternate domestic suppliers, that guarantees a more stable supply when international trade gets messed up.
And what can governments do to encourage that? The source mentions funding, but what does that actually look like in practice?
It's about easing the financial burden for manufacturers to expand. Governments can offer targeted funding for what are called capital asset investments.
Okay, so capital assets, you mean like the big, expensive machinery and factory upgrades?
Exactly. They're helping cover the cost of building new certified facilities. And they can also use what are called fiscal measures.
Can you translate that for us?
Yeah, it's just government tools related to spending and taxing. So on the demand side, that might mean enhanced food assistance programs or subsidies for parents. On the supply side, it could mean coordinating with manufacturers to provide free formula directly to low-income groups, making sure the product gets to the most vulnerable people outside of the stressed-out open market.
And since this is a global problem, how do we fix the worldwide logistics?
By reforming global trade policies. That means actively decreasing trade barriers and relaxing tariffs. Taxes on imports on both the raw materials and the final products.
So things could move across borders more easily.
More quickly and more affordably. It allows countries that have a surplus to efficiently help cover shortages somewhere else.
And finally, the source brings up a public health approach to manage demand, campaigning for breastfeeding, which I think we should be clear isn't about shaming parents.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that the shortage gets worse if demand is overwhelming. So we can encourage and assist parents who choose to breastfeed, not by forcing them, but by making it easier.
With things like educational seminars, public health forums,
And providing free supplies like breast pumps and other aids to help foster success for those who choose that path. It's really about decreasing the unnecessary reliance on formula where it's possible. So to kind of pull all this together, the consequences of the shortage, the stress, the black markets, the unsafe alternatives, they're severe. And they require proactive, long-term measures from all sides.
Right. And the primary takeaway for every parent who's struggling right now remains really simple and vital. You have to provide your infant with adequate nutrition, but professional medical advice should always be sought before you consider any feeding alternatives, especially homemade ones.
Do not dilute formula. Do not substitute ingredients. Don't switch specialized brands without talking to your doctor. And in this whole situation, it really raises a bigger question that goes way beyond infant formula. Considering our heavy reliance on just a few global suppliers for things like whey protein concentrate, what other areas of our lives, be it medication, basic foods, critical technology, are just as fragile? What concrete steps should we as a community be pushing for to ensure long-term stability across all of our essential supply chains?
That really deepens the context. In the meantime, if you are struggling with feeding-related issues right now, if you need professional guidance on safe alternatives or formula advice or even breastfeeding support, we strongly encourage you to visit omegapediatrics.com. You can find more details there and book an appointment. They are a vital resource offering expert assistance. Thank you so much for tuning into this deep dive from Have More Babies. If you found this information helpful, please take just a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel for our future analyses, and share this information with other parents who might be struggling right now.
We really appreciate you listening.